Hey, good evening, Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope, as well as our other streaming channels. And look who I have on a Monday.
Good.
This is a definitely surprise for us to do a show outside of our reviews on a Monday night. But with NCAA basketball and their new schedule with COVID, we had to rearrange some things, and we have the North, as we would say, the Norris divisions of both teams we're going to try to do.
Both A and NFC.
We have AFC and NFC North. We have the sad situation that's going on with Deshaun Jackson. Deshaun Watson. I don't know. What's up, Wayne?
Hey man, playing a little banged up today. So if the voice is a little slurred, my face is a little swollen. Had a little dental work done this morning. But hey man, we talk about the league where they play for pay, so you got to play and pay too. So I'm ready.
Hey, I'd rather you have the dental work done than running around here looking like you got a spade hand, two and a possible.
This is very true.
So it's very paramount, regardless of how old we get. Some people get to a certain age and they just be like, I don't care, just take it out. Nah.
Got a little tune up, so feeling good, and a lot going on with free agency, and some draft news came out today that was very interesting, and I think we may touch on that. But we did our special Cowboys draft show, so that kind of took that Saturday over, and then this Saturday, just with some busyness going on. So a Monday night, man, just like Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
But we'll start with the AFC North and then work our way to the NFC North. And everything that we talk about as far as draft needs is coming from, USA Today calls it Bengals Wire or Steelers Wire, or all that stuff is from USA Today. Shout out to them. That's where we get our draft needs from. And if you want, we can just get right into it. If you want to talk about the Deshaun Watson or
we can get into it because I know the Deshaun Watson thing it's layered. I know we get right to the draft stuff. We're talking about the Deshaun Watson thing,
and then we'll just do all around the NFL sort of like to wrap it up. So we're gonna start with the AFC North, and we got the Bengals at 5. And way back in our mock draft, we had them taking Rashawn Slater, the offensive tackle out of Northwestern. According to Bengals Wire, their biggest needs is 1 offensive tackle, 2 an edge rusher, 3 corner, 4 wide receiver, and 5 an interior defensive lineman. Some other potential picks for the Bengals. I didn't go too deep into it because they're picking 5. So Penei Sewell, Christian Darrisaw, and Kyle Pitts. I think Joe Burrow, we've talked about this before. He proved to be better than I thought he would be in his rookie season, and but he got beat up behind that offensive line, man. So I think if Penei Sewell is there for them at 5, it should only take them 2 minutes to run that card and draft him.
It's funny because it seems like me and you talked about the Bengals more this year than we've ever talked about the Bengals ever.
Ever.
One thing I noticed about the Bengals is they were a good team, but for some reason the coach was scared to run the ball. He put a lot on Joe Burrow's shoulders,
Put a
and Joe
lot.
Burrow did impress me and you a lot. I saw 3 games where he lost, and the one game where they tied with the Eagles, where clearly they could have won those games had they relied on the running back or was able to protect him. This is another team that we followed them all year because we knew that they were going to be in that contention for one of those top 5 picks, no matter how good they did. But I'm on the record, and I'm gonna go back on the record saying if they do not get Penny Sewell or Rashawn Slater, I just think this will be a colossal failure by an organization who's known as making failures. I know the draft, Dwayne, you did your mock draft a month and a half ago, and I know
Yeah.
that the draft is fluid. But the stuff that we've been hearing about Penny Sewell and what's up, OG? The stuff me and you've been hearing about Penny Sewell
OG, what's
and,
good, man?
and, and Rashawn Slater from some of these teams that clearly need offensive linemen, it's crazy. Because if I needed an offensive lineman, if I was a team like them and I needed an offensive, it would be no secret. We would be working on the contract as we speak.
Listen, I thought they made mistakes by winning some games because I thought Sewell would go second overall. I think he's the second best draft prospect, man. He is. Listen, I don't want to compare him to Hall of Famers. I don't. But if you're the Bengals, this is your modern era Anthony Munoz, who you just put over there at left tackle, and you don't mess with that man for 15 to 20 years. Now,
And he's young.
I'm not saying he's Munoz, because Munoz is one of the greatest offensive tackles to ever play this game. But remember what he gave you. And now you got this kid. This kid is something, man. He's very young, like you said.
I just think it's weird. I mean, Barrow, like I said, me and you were not impressed. We didn't think it was going to translate to the NFL, and he clearly translated. I think he would be. I think they would be stupid not to get Penny Sewell. I mean, I just think it's weird. I think it's weird for them, the Bengals, not to get him. If they don't get him, even Rashawn Slater, like what is wrong with y'all?
Yeah, they got to do it, man. Like, your quarterback is your greatest investment. Joe Burrow got beat up behind that line last year. You go out, you solidify your tackle position with either Sewell or Slater, and you just build with this young man Burrow.
And
Man.
it's clearly and it's showing again, even in the off season in free agency. The premium is quarterback, left tackle, pass rusher, cornerback. So
Right.
if you gotta plug one of those guys in as a quote unquote can't miss, I don't see what the problem is.
Yeah, I don't see it, man. But the AFC North is historically a very good division. So the Bengals is at 5. The next team doesn't pick to 24, which is the Pittsburgh Steelers. In the mock draft, our 1.0 mock draft, I had Travis Etienne, the running back from Clemson, going to the Steelers here. I think he's left Bell. Like, he's that guy that can run. He can catch the ball out the backfield. He can do a lot of different things. According to Steeler Wire, their number one need is an interior offensive lineman. That means center or guard, which makes sense because Pouncey retired on him, So both Pouncey brothers retired together. So they definitely got a need at center and at guard. Also linebacker. Their 3 need tight end, 4 running back. 5, they got to look for the heir apparent to Big Ben. You're not going to play forever. Some other potential picks for the Steelers at 24, Najee Harris, the running back from Alabama, another very accomplished running back. Rondell Moore, who's an electric slot receiver out of Purdue, fast, good hands, will be able to work the middle of the field. They just re-signed Juju to a 1-year deal, and we'll talk about that a little bit in our wrap up. The wide receiver position really not really valued in this free agency except for the New York team paying for them. Also like Jalen Mayfield, Y'all know I talk about him every week, so I won't go into it. Mac Jones, the quarterback from Alabama. Christian Darrisaw, Rashad Bateman, Kadarius Tony. That's just some of the few that could be there for the Steelers. And, the Steelers is a model of consistency since Tomlin's been there. But, they could be facing a very, very big crossroads coming up because they still want to win, but they got to think about their future as well. And Big Ben is at the end. He ain't in the beginning.
I know we did. It's funny. We discussed the Steelers when they were undefeated, and we knew that they were going to be had, and we talked about it because we saw the team that we root for play them, and we was like, it's a chink in the armor."
Yep.
And they jumped out. They jumped out the airplane without a parachute. The Steelers fizzled out real quick. I think a lot of people forget that they were 11-0 at one time. They got a lot of needs, Dwayne, and usually traditionally they're a very, very good drafting team. They keep a lot of their business close to the vest. I'm actually surprised that they allowed Juju to come back on their terms like that, because usually when the Steelers even allow you to get to free agency, they just be like, "Go."
Go.
They're just a team that really they're what are they? Are they still a Super Bowl contender? Because with the age of the quarterback, you have to contend.
Yeah.
Are they going to just let that go and just start rebuilding their team? So it's interesting. It's interesting what they're going to do with the Steelers. I mean, they got draft needs all across the board. Even the receiver position is interesting. It's like they have no clear cut number one. The tight end position is crazy. Pouncey retired, opposite of Watt retired, left. Bud Dupree left. They have a team that's very, very interesting. They need their draft needs should probably say any and all. But I'm not criticizing their franchise because they're a great drafting team.
Absolutely.
But they need a lot going forward.
They do. And the next team at 26 is the Cleveland Browns, who they had a very decent 2020, man. Like Baker stepped up. So are they for real? Are they players? In the first mock draft, I had them taking the safety out of TCU that I love, Trayvon Moehrig. I think he's a difference-making safety. I think the end of the first round is about the time where you could go and do the safety position. According to Brown Wire, their needs is defensive end.
And they signed your boy in free agency, right? Delprez back, right? Yeah. He had tore his Achilles.
Yeah. So you got defensive end / edge rushers, their number one need to go on the other side of Myles Garrett. Corner, wide receiver, linebacker, and safety. Some of the people that you potentially hear rumored, Carlos Basham Jr., who his cousin just signed a free agent deal with the Cowboys. So you got Carlos Basham Jr. I've been reading up to try to get the right way to pronounce this man's last name, and everywhere I hear it, it is being called Gregory Rousseau. They call him Rousseau. So we got the right pronouncing of his name. Joe Tyron, who's just a hard lunch pail defensive end. Not really a edge rusher, more of a defensive end that stops the run. He could be a two-downer, maybe come off the field on third down. Micah Parsons, who I just think is so undervalued in this draft, as we lead up to the days of the draft, I just think it's a smokescreen, man. I just think people are saying all this about him, and I think eventually he's going to be a top 15 player. But if he's around there, the Browns definitely got to consider him. And then that other edge rusher from Miami, Jalen Phillips, who I think has the best potential out of Rousseau, out of Roche. I like the Phillips kid a lot.
The Browns are a very interesting team. I really like what they're doing. I think this whole draft, they need to take a page out of Matt Rule's book. I think they need to draft all defense. I think everything's on the table. I think if they can solidify that other safety position, like they said, Mooring will be there. If they can get another pass rusher, like they said, if they get a linebacker. I mean, if they can actually walk away with three starters on that defense from this draft, I'm able to really go out on a limb and say if Baker Mayfield is consistent, they might be a preseason division winner early
Let me ask you a
because
question.
they are primed to take off.
Let me ask you a question. Does Odell Beckham Jr. start and end the year as a Cleveland Brown?
I think as the organization going forward, I think they should it's going to be tough to trade him now because of what's been going on with the league and the money situation. A lot of teams with the cap, but I think that they should have traded him. I think that they should have traded him as soon as last week. They should have said to themselves like they're more of a balanced team when he's not there. I mean, some players are so good and their personalities are so big that certain quarterbacks, young quarterbacks, they'll wither under them. And I think that when he's there, it takes away from Baker reading his progressions. Baker clearly is a guy who needs to only throw the ball 15 to 22 times a game
Mm-hmm.
and run that football with them backs, man. Run that football with them backs.
And I know this is a draft show, and that's what we're going to concentrate on for the most part. But what does this say about Odell Beckham Jr. if another organization decides it's better to trade him than to keep him?
Well, it goes, Dwayne. It goes back to it says a lot about him. Is that the meat attitude? Worst thing that happened to this kid was the catch. Far as just learning the business side and how to handle yourself as a professional, I think he just never learned that. The talent is there, and it just and right now, if you really look at the NFL, the quote unquote diva receiver, that's not needed no more. Teams are starting to realize that if you could take three number two receivers, and as long as you got an aggressive play caller who knows what they're doing, they could win. Look at what Sean McVay, America's darling coach, is doing. Uh, he's got three good receivers. I don't think he has a great receiver. I mean, Cup is nice.
Right.
He got three good receivers, and what did he do today? They go out and sign Deshaun Jackson and say, you know what? We just need you to play 30 plays a game, take the top off the ball,
and then you got
and that's it.
You got Higbee and you got Reynolds playing that tight end position, and now you got Matt Stafford at quarterback. So
because what happens is a team like Odell and them, when you got guys that are great receivers. Look at Julio Jones, man. He's a great receiver, and we all know he's great. There's not a football fan in the world that would not say Julio Jones is not a great receiver.
absolutely.
But he's on a perennial losing team, and we could say it's not his fault, but is it? Is it? These guys command this top dollar money, and they hamstring their franchises. I mean, it continues happening. So Odell, I wish him luck. But Cleveland, if Cleveland is smart as far as trying to win and what they're doing with their program and with their running backs, and they got a run-based scheme, you don't need them. Get a pass rusher for them.
Yeah. So then the last team in the AFC North picks right after the Browns at 27 is the Baltimore Ravens, led by Lamar Jackson. In our mock draft, we had them taking Azua Ojulari, the linebacker slash edge from Georgia. Other potential picks here is Jason Uwa from Penn State, Creed Humphreys, who's another nice little hybrid type player. Uh, Jamin Davis, a linebacker out of Kentucky that I really, really like. Greg Rousseau is another name you're going to see again. And then, Jalen Phillips again. And then two people that can help in their passing game, Rashad Bateman and Rondell Moore. And so those are some of the names. And Raven Ryer has their number one needs as an edge, an interior offensive lineman, a wide receiver, a safety, or a tight end. It's going to be interesting to see if the Ravens give Lamar $42 million a year, because that Rain Dakota may be the highest paid quarterback now, but you got Lamar Jackson, you got Baker Mayfield, you got Josh Allen, all coming up on these deals. And though I think Lamar is electric, I think it's fun to watch him. If you force him to throw the ball, I still think there's limitations there. And the Ravens are going to have to decide if he's a $42 million quarterback. The market's going to say he is. But
I mean, the thing that the Ravens, they're going to keep the tradition of Ozzie Newsome being a well ran organization. They're going to draft well, so I won't be surprised wherever they draft. Just know that it's the right move. They are a very, very smart organization. It's interesting you brought up Lamar, because Lamar had been in some conversations this week with some of the talking heads in reference to Lamar Jackson. I, I I have a hard time when I talk about these quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson, because a lot of people fall for fool's gold when you get a guy like him. And what I mean is everybody gets caught up in the hype, MVP of the league, on video games. With all due respect, Lamar Jackson is not a good quarterback. He's a good football player.
he's a football player.
He's a good football player. He's dynamic with the ball in his hand, but he's not a good quarterback. He's limited throwing. You got talking heads in defense of Lamar this week because he's a good kid. You got them criticizing the receivers. You got them criticizing the receivers all week.
Yeah.
You got them criticizing why they couldn't get Juju. Now people saying, "Oh, Juju." We know that Juju's antics was his antics, but
Yeah.
really, if you're a receiver, can Lamar get you the ball 75 times a year? I don't think he can right now. And
That's not who
and
he
it's
is.
really it's really sad, Dwayne, because it goes back to when they assess guys like him, Cam Newton. When you're critical of them, if you're not black and you're white and you criticize them, they'll say, "Oh, you're just saying it. You're being racist. You're saying the same stereotype they used to say on the black quarterbacks."
Right.
It has nothing to do with race, because the black quarterbacks run the NFL right now. So it has nothing to do with race when you criticize guys like Lamar or Cam. I just never. I just don't think Lamar, when you invest that type of money with him, what are you investing for? What are you going to do? Because if he gets hurt running the football, now he's on the sideline. He's just not a good quarterback. I have no problem saying it. I mean,
he may be the best athlete in the NFL.
Yes.
I hate to put that title, because that's the title they always want to put on a black quarterback. But I think it fits in this regard. So that's our AFC North. So we ran through that. And we want to say good evening. I saw Julia Dozer put up there, good evening. I was running.
Yeah.
So I apologize, Queens. Good evening. Happy Monday. So we got the NFC North, right? And one of the big movers and shakers in the NFC North and in the NFL overall this offseason has been the Detroit Lions. They traded Stafford. They got Jared Goff. And, it was good to see that Michael Brockers made sure he reached out to Jared Goff and apologized for his comments that he made when the Rams got Mr. Stafford. And he said it was definitely a level up. And he said that when he thought he was going to be a Ram, and now he's a Lion. And so he apologized and said, well, I was just trying to get the fan base hyped up or whatever. And, of course, Jared Goff's a good guy, so he accepted the apology. So you got Dan Campbell, who, to me, the press conferences and stuff like that, it's funny. But I want to see if he will wear on teams, sort of like Jim Harbaugh wore on the 49ers with the way that he is so intense and the way that he coaches. But with the 49ers, in our mock draft, if people remember, I said the 49ers instead of the Lions because in our mock draft, I had the Lions and the 49ers making the trade. And if you remember, that trade broke while we were doing our mock draft, which was pretty nice. And it was almost right at the time where the Lions had to come up. So it was almost in real time. So in the mock, I had them trading from 7 to 12 and taking Kwity Paye out of Michigan. Lions Wire, their draft needs have the number one need for them, a wide receiver, which makes sense since they lost Kenny Galladay and they lost Marvin Jones Sr. So wide receiver is definitely something that they could look at now strong. The second need was a linebacker, third O-line, 4 corner, 5 edge. So you consider now what they did with getting Goff and everything. So some of the people that I have mentioned for them is Devontae Smith, the Heisman Trophy winner, Jamar Chase, the electric wide receiver at LSU, Kyle Pitts, who is the most unique talent in this draft, Penei Sewell if he drops down there, or Rashawn Slater if he drops. So it's going to be very interesting. I still think the Lions are a hot spot for a team that wants to trade up for them quarterbacks. You know, we know that right now you have Lawrence who's going to go 1 overall. That's fine. But then you got about 4 quarterbacks that some of these teams will be jockeying for. You know, the Zach Wilson, who seems to be the new flavor of the month, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Mac Jones. So there may be some teams that want to come up for these quarterbacks. And I think the Lions are in a perfect position to do that.
You know what's funny, Dwayne? I'm worried about Dan Campbell. Because me and you know where he came from. Most people will always say that he came from Sean Payton, but it can't. He's the extension of the Parcells tree.
He's a tuna guy.
You know, and I don't know if that style of team building can go because we know that those guys believe in building from the lines out.
Yeah, but
I do believe what you said though. He got hit because of his contract. He got stability. And what he can do is if he does trade that pick for somebody, he's the type of guy that'll go get picks. And you just got to watch what they do. I mean, if one thing that me and you've always liked is even though we got a team that we root for, we always like to see teams on the come up and watch how they rebuild their teams and watch who they put in place. I think Dan Campbell and the coaching staff that he's gotten is what I would consider excellent.
It's all tuna guys. The offensive coordinator is Anthony Lynn. It's a tuna guy. The defensive coordinator is Aaron Glenn. That's a tuna guy. You know, so that Bill Parcells influence is real big. And think about it, man. Parcells has been in this game and people upon his tree for a lot of years now, man. A lot of years. So it's going to be interesting to see what Detroit does. I'll definitely be interested to see what they do at the wide receiver position because no Galladay, no Marvin Jones Sr., man. Those is big hits to that receiving core. So they could look to rebuild on their receiving core as well. Like, what is Jamar Chase or Kyle Pitts, who is a tight end? He's a wide receiver in the tight end's body.
I could definitely see them coming out in a couple plays with 2 tight ends and a standard fullback and just saying, we're going to run it down your throat all night long because we got you on your heels. They're going to be an interesting team to watch. They're going to be playing them at, them 12-6 football games close to the vest. Goff, just don't make no mistakes.
Just manage the game. And what does Jared Goff do well? He's well off the play action game. So when you got Mr. Swift in that backfield for Detroit, he's very nice, young, be his second year in the league. And, they're going to build off that old Northeast cold weather, even though they're inside the dome. That's Dan Campbell, tough guy football, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So then you got the Minnesota Vikings with one of my favorites, Mike Zimmer. In the mock, we had them taking Greg Rousseau, the edge out of Miami. Some of their needs is interior offensive lineman, edge rusher, corner, offensive tackle, interior defensive lineman. Some of the potential people, names you've heard me say before, Slater, Jalen Phillips, Elijah Vera Tucker, Christian Darrisaw, J.C. Horn, Sertan. Would have been Caleb Farley somewhere around here, but now I think Caleb Farley moves out of the first round. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But Zimmer is guess what Zimmer is? Guess what Zimmer is? It's another tuna guy.
let me, Dwayne. I believe that if you'll get Danielle Hunter to get back in shape this year, and now you've got Tomlinson in that middle with him.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, next to him on the edge, and then you got your veteran cornerback. I would not be surprised if Minnesota make a run, man, and be really competitive in the division this year. They got like I said,
person on that defensive end. Didn't work out for him with him in Dallas, but he's up there in Minnesota. They may be able to re-sign him at a pretty good discount.
I think they're going to be very, very, very interesting. I know a lot of
only thing that worries me about Minnesota, and it's number 8, man. I don't trust Kirk Cousins. I just don't.
You know what's funny about him?
I don't trust him.
He's not bad. He just erratic. I'll just say erratic. He's not a bad quarterback.
He's like milk, man. He's like milk. It's good for you, but if you have too much of it, it can hurt you too. Kirk Cousins.
Literally, both ends.
That's Kirk Cousins, man. He's like milk, man. It's good for you, but if you have too much of it, it damn sure could be bad for you.
But I like what Zimmer did last year. Zimmer got all them young boys in the secondary. I know they're gonna miss Anthony Harris, but if you look at what Zim does, Zim just wants to do one thing: get his rush guys, play that great cover 2 defense that he knows, and play a lot of play action and throw the ball downfield. It's like funny because Zim's offense is prolific. Yeah, Zim's offense is great from the 20 to the 20. And then it just bogs down. I do think losing Kyle Rudolph is going to hurt them, but I think it was time to go, man.
It was. So, but yeah, so that's Minnesota at 14. Now, to me, at 20 is the most interesting team in this NFL draft. I am so interested to see what the Chicago Bears do going forward. As we know, last week they signed Andy Dalton. Told him he was the starter, man. I'm surprised they came right out and told him he would be the starter. There's still rumors that they're still talking about the Eagles were potentially sending Nick Foles back for the Philly special.
Then they got so mad with their fan base, they actually told what they offered Seattle to get Russell Wilson. They told how much they offered, which I was surprised because they actually named Hicks in the package, and now Hicks wants to get they allowed Hicks to look for a trade.
Yeah, Hicks and Kyle Fuller.
And as good as Hicks is, Hicks leaving could affect Khalil Mack. People don't realize when you have edge rushers, I don't care how good they are, they need them guys that eat up them blocks in the middle. And I think they're not appreciating Hicks enough. I just think the Chicago Bears, like you said, interesting. I know that me and you think that they're going to make a trade for the number 10 pick.
I would like to see
and how it would be beneficial. I know that there's salary cap. From what I understand, there's salary cap hell. Allen Robinson first said he wasn't going to sign the franchise tag, and then he just came out of nowhere and signed it out of the blue.
Yeah.
Just very interesting team. Just real interesting.
They are, but Bears Wire has their number one need, which is a surprise to no one, being quarterback. 2 offensive tackle, 3 wide receiver, 4 edge, 5 linebacker. And Mach 1.0, we had them standing pat, and we had them taking, and I know y'all gonna kill me because I'm tired of Dwayne and Jalen Mayfield, but I had them taking Jalen Mayfield out of Michigan at 20. I'm not gonna bore you again with how I feel about this young man. Other potential picks: Trey Lance, Mac Jones, Rashad Bateman, Kevin Jenkins, who I think is going to be a really good player in this league, and Elijah Vera Tucker. Interesting, man. I think this is the end of the road for Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy. I was hoping we would have our Matt Nagy join us tonight, or Spiros, to give us a little bit about those those Bears, but neither one of them are in the chat tonight. So, but that's the Chicago Bears. We know a lot of Bears fans from what we grew up with. I could think of
Big Paul Webb,
Prentice Grant, Terry
and Terry,
Patrick Capers, my man
Pat Seals. There's a lot of them.
A lot of Bears fans out there, man, and we'll see what they give them.
Yeah.
Hey, the Red Rifle, he stepped in and played for our team last year. And if you're willing to bank your season on the Red Rifle as your starting quarterback, well, good luck with that. He's a backup. So we'll see what they do going forward. And our last team to speak about tonight, which, hey, man, great job out of you tonight, bro. We went through the AFC and NFC East. I mean, AFC and NFC North, and we did it within 40 minutes. But that's going to leave us some time to talk about around the league. But we got the Packers, right? Packers had a nice run last year. Packers Wire has them number one need once again is a wide receiver, 2 linebacker, 3 interior defensive linemen because they let their center go too, 4 offensive tackle, 5 corner. We mocked them to take the speedster out of LSU, Terrence Marshall Jr., somebody that could take the top off the defense for Aaron Rodgers. Other potential picks: Rondale Moore, Xavier Collins, Bateman, and the offensive lineman Walker Little out of Stanford. They got to give Aaron Rodgers help. I think it's big that they re-signed Aaron Jones. Didn't believe they was going to give him as much money as they did, but they did. But they got to shore up this offensive line, man. They let their center go.
I don't. The Packers is remind me of the other historical team that we talked about, the Steelers. What Matt LaFleur has done the first 2 years, if you look at the regular season, it's almost incredible. Are they overachieving or are they underachieving? That's the question that the organization really needs to ask, because some people will say that they're wasting the best quarterback in the game's best years. I mean, he's been putting up phenomenal years the last 4 years when he's healthy. And it's like, okay, then the day I heard that he's going to rework his contract, they went and got the quote-unquote Smith brothers a couple years ago. They just a strange team. They do draft well. They draft smart. But it's like, are y'all spending enough money to get Aaron to help? Are y'all choking in the big games? Because, it's almost like you want to give Aaron Rodgers all this credit, but when you look at his last couple playoffs, they've lost the last 2 championship games. Same thing when you go back and you look at the career of Drew Brees the last 5-6 years. You look at a lot of the good quarterbacks in the NFC, a lot of them, the last couple of playoffs been like lousy. Even if you look at Russ, as good as he is, I think he's like 1-3 his last 4 playoff games. Mm-hmm. So saying to the Packers do have to do something with their offensive line to protect him. They got to do something. They got to get it. They're missing something. They got him. They got the running back. They got the quarterback. that they're just missing something. It's something about their team that just is not why they just can't win in the playoffs. I don't know what it is. They get to the championship game and they fold like a lawn chair.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just think they got to be very careful. Try to just draft. If you're going to draft somebody on defense, draft somebody that's a playmaker. Maybe it's the turnovers. I know
Maybe.
when they got to the Super Bowl the last couple of times, that they always got there because they got them key turnovers. And I know that people downplay getting turnovers, but you could have a good defense and don't win if you don't get them turnovers. So I think they need to do something because it's something about the Packers why they just cannot win the big game.
Right. Right. And so
So
that's what it is. And if we go into around the NFL a little bit, first I'd like to acknowledge the end of a very good 20-year NFL career. Drew Brees. I know he only won one championship during that 20 years, and he has a lot of passing records, and he'll go down as a great quarterback. Um, starting in San Diego and failing a physical in Miami, but Sean Payton taking a chance on him, and what he did at New Orleans for 15 years of his career was amazing. So, shout out to Drew Brees. We'll be seeing a lot more of him because he's moving right to NBC. He'll be doing Notre Dame football next year with Mike Tirico. And this is Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth last season, last year being under contract for NBC. Thank goodness, because we know I can't stand Chris Collinsworth. But so you'll see Drew Brees and Mike Tirico. So we thank him for what he did for the league.
uh, Drew Brees, the thing that most people may not understand is that he embraced that city after Katrina. He became who that nation after Katrina. He became a son of New Orleans, and outside of football, everything that he's done for the league. And I know that he had got caught up in some controversy this past year, and it's funny.
Right.
You'll get caught up in controversy when you say something that's against the norm. I mean, anybody that has watched Drew Brees and watched how he's handled business on and off the field, you know what type of guy he is. Sometimes we sometimes want human beings to be exactly the way we are, and that's just impossible for anybody to think, act, and talk and have the same thought patterns that we have. So Drew Brees definitely was a fun quarterback to watch at his height and the way that he threw the ball with pinpoint accuracy for a long time in the NFL. But Dwayne, I know we talked about it on the phone. What is going on with Deshaun Watson?
Bro, I'm trying to be careful with this whole Deshaun Watson anything, this case, because, you know, sexual harassment, you know, sexual assault, all this stuff is very, very real. And, we got to be there for these women who are the victims of it. So we got to be careful with it. Um, it's surprising when you consider the man that Deshaun Watson is off the field and all the good he's done. Um, I get during COVID, massage parlors weren't really open. So, you going on Instagram and soliciting for them. I want to be very careful with what I say about this whole situation. Um, the number of women that have come forth is alarming. I will say that. But we got to let this play out. But we also have to know how the NFL works and how they protect that shield. They have suspended people before that these people wound up being found not guilty of the charges brought before them. So I want people to understand that the NFL will act before the legal process takes total total duration. Um, it's sketchy as far as this lawyer who says he doesn't know the McNairs, but he live on the same block as them. I don't know about anybody else, but usually when you live on a block, you know Miss Smith is in the White House, Mr. Jones is in the greenhouse. You know what I mean? You know your neighbors for the most part, whether you like them or you dislike them. You know who your neighbors are. So for Mr. Busby to say he doesn't know Mr. McNair, and I think we have to be quick to say these are alleged charges, alleged, but it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good.
I know we discussed it when it first came out, and we both had the same thought. And they always say where there's smoke, there's fire. I just think Deshaun made one mistake so far, and that was talking to TMZ. Um, Houston police have gotten involved in the NFL, and this is where Deshaun needs to be very, very careful because the NFL right now, let's just be honest. Based off the NFL's history and how they move, Deshaun Watson will be suspended for the first 6 games. That's not even a thought now, regardless of the accusation or not. I personally believe that Deshaun Watson is un. I don't think he really understands the magnitude of the accusations. I think that him flying these young ladies in, I think it was a very bad decision on his part. I mean, you wanted a massage, and I get it. You don't want the quote unquote team massage, so you get massages from these young ladies from specific towns and fly them in and all that. I think Deshaun opened himself up for this, unfortunately, and right now he probably didn't think it would happen to him. But this is the society we live in. You gotta protect yourself at all costs. It's a sad situation that an individual that we've never heard anything bad at has all these things. You got people running around saying it's a setup and this, that, and the third. And all I can say is, like me and you talked about before, um, I know these athletes all believe they move the right way. If I could consult a professional athlete, I would say I think you need to reach out to Derek Jeter because I think that Derek Jeter, for what he did and living in New York City, being from Detroit, and
Kalamazoo.
you never heard his name.
Kalamazoo. That's when you're coming from Kalamazoo, Michigan, man. I know something about this. I got the Western Michigan uh, sweatshirt on. Now, Kalamazoo is 2 hours west of Detroit. 2 hours. You're closer to Chicago almost than Detroit when you're in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Um, Very laid back, very mom and pops. You know everybody, convenient store, hardware store, everything in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And for Derek Jeter to go from that environment to New York City and never have scandal, and he was an athlete in New York City for 20 years, man, he should
I
be
I I,
he should
I
be
don't know
running.
why. I mean, you even Dwayne, me and you say it, and a lot of people be like, why is Quentin and Dwayne talking about Derek Jeter? You know why we're talking about Derek Jeter? Because other athletes use him as the standard and say how he didn't get in trouble. How Derek Jeter's name was never put in no steroid scandal. Never. You never heard a peep. And then as soon as he retired, he gets married and has a child. So Deshaun Watson, if you're out there, hopefully you get through this. Hopefully the truth comes out. If you did do anything wrong, inappropriate doing Deshaun, oh, I don't know. I can't say I wish you luck. I don't believe in luck. I just can say that it's a sad situation.
You know,
This attorney, if this attorney is lying, I hope this attorney goes to jail. It's just a funny thing that they started with a civil case first and not try to get him charged criminally. This is where it gets tricky, and
Well,
this
listen,
is where the doubt comes in at.
I'm trying to, like I said before, I'm trying to be careful, but it doesn't pass the smell test. Like this man, here's what I'll say. And if I'm wrong, my Lord in heaven above will forgive me. But if Deshaun did not ask for a trade out of Houston, would this stuff have come to light?
No,
I don't think so either.
we know how teams get stories and they sit on them. That has been going on in professional sports forever. The star athlete do something in that town, whether it's a speeding ticket, whether he likes the ladies of leisure at night, whether he's into the hanky panky, whether he likes the nose candy. Local police, local media guys, kind of like squash stories. Definitely, if they have a plug-in with the owner of give them access and won't talk about the story. And to the athlete, or if they have the videotape, they won't talk about it forever. It'll be gone.
Yeah.
I just think it's an interesting thing, but
And then
that's gonna.
people, just one more thing I want to say on this. I wanted people to be careful when you compare what happened with Robert Kraft to what happened to Deshaun Watson. There's no equity, folks. Robert Kraft is a billionaire owner. Okay? He's a billionaire owner. The rules that apply for him is not going to be the rules that apply for Deshaun Watson. I'm going to say something else that's going to be very controversial right now when we're talking about inequity and equity in sports. The rules that apply for the men's college basketball tournament is not going to be the same rules that apply to the women's college basketball tournament. Not that these ladies deserve any less, but cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money. Dollar bill, y'all. And the men's tournament nets almost amid the last men's tournament in 2019 made the NCAA $878,000. The women's tournament barely broke even. And so, yeah, these women's probably should have had better workout equipment. I will agree with you on that. But when you're looking at equity in everything, in life and in sports, it doesn't exist, folks. In a perfect world, it would. So when I see people comparing what happened with Robert Kraft to allegedly what's going on with Deshaun Watson, that's not an apples to apples comparison. It's an
I'm gonna ask
orange
you a
to apple
question.
comparison.
Segue in that situation. Did we just see a man? Did we just see a football wide receiver lose millions of dollars because he wants to be on TikTok all day?
Yeah. Corvette, yes. You know, Juju want to dance on logos and all that stuff. And that's why he's going. Don't have Juju tell you he going back to the Steelers because he loved the Steelers. And then he's going back to the Steelers because ain't nobody else really step up to the plate. Now, you can believe these rumors about the Ravens all you want. If you look at the wide receiver market and free agency, there's two wide receivers that got paid big, and they're both in New York City. And, hey, the Giants have been doing some great things in free agency, but $18.5 million for Kenny Golladay, I got to see it.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be
Fly,
honest with you. The only thing that
great
I know
pickup.
about
They needed a number one, so I'm not going to sit here and say it's not a great pickup. Kyle Rudolph, great pickup. Adoree Jackson, great pickup. Gettleman's doing some things, but you could have got you a top level wide receiver in this draft, and you went out and you spent $18.5 million on Kenny Golladay.
I'm confused. I'm confused with Galladay. Is Galladay $1.5 million less player than Amari Cooper?
I don't know. You know,
He's coming back from injury, Dwayne.
they,
Don't get me wrong. What is Galladay? You put
I'm
my
gonna
thing
give
about Galladay is this.
I'm gonna give credit where credit is due. Okay, Dominic Foxworth on ESPN today said Kenny Galladay is a number one. He's good, but he's not what the Giants are gonna think they're getting. He's not a precision route runner. He's a 50-50 ball guy. And when your quarterback turns the ball over at the rate of Daniel Jones, a 50-50 ball guy is no good for you.
Interesting.
Now, that ain't the way Morris saying that. That's coming from a man that get paid on ESPN and is in front of everybody.
That's
But
interesting perspective.
yeah, I'm just saying that Corey Davis got a nice payday for the Jets. But if you look at it in this offseason, wide receivers are not getting a lot of money. Why is that? This draft is dripping with wide receivers. This draft may be 20 deep with wide receivers
You might get an NFL wide receiver starter in the fourth round.
Listen, this is not my dad's NFL. Now, you know, when my dad's NFL, and even when I was a little younger man without the salt and pepper, they would say that a receiver, it takes a couple of years for receivers to acclimate themselves to the NFL. Not anymore. We run a spread offense in Pop Warner. We run a spread offense in high school, middle school.
So
spread
Dwayne,
offense in college. So when they get to the pros, these receivers have taken over in importance from the running back.
let me ask you a question, Dwayne. So far in free agency, I want to ask you your biggest surprise as far as getting money and not getting money. What surprised you the most so far?
I'm surprised. And again, I'm gonna say the Giants have done some great things. And they gave Galladay a lot of money. They gave Adoree Jackson today a lot of money. And you let Dalvin Tomlinson go to the Vikings on a 2-year deal. Like, I don't know if the Giants they're gonna regret getting rid of letting Dalvin Tomlinson walk out that door for that. All right, now they got Leonard Williams. I get it. They gave him a 3-year deal. I get it. I'm a little surprised that Galladay got $18.5 million. I am. And it wasn't a lot of other teams that was really willing to go to that level. So the Giants are making win now decisions. They feel like they're ready to win now. Who else? I was a little surprised by some of the money that some of these corners got. Like Willie Jackson got a pretty good deal. Jalen Mills.
It's like when you mean Darby. It's like when you
Mills
do
too though.
yeah
Mills
when
did
you
all
do your
right.
cornerback thing every year in September, we're going to definitely have some new names on that list. But the most surprising thing is a guy like, and I take nothing from him because I like him, Bud Dupree getting all that money, and I will be honest, I thought Tomlinson would probably could get 3 years, 40 million guaranteed.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of people don't like paying for run stoppers, but I think that his age, he's got at least 4 or 5 more good years left. I'm shocked that that Minnesota basically stole him.
Yeah. Like
I think a lot of teams wasn't surprised that he didn't get much money.
I think Minnesota stole 2 players that's going to help them out immensely in the 2021 season. Tomlinson and Patrick Peterson. For them to get Patrick Peterson for 1 year, $8 million, that could go to $10 million with incentives. Now I know a lot of these free agents, the money is a little bit different than it is in the past because of the salary cap going down due to COVID. So I get it. And I know my team, the team I root for, when it's free agency, we at the back of the store, the clearance rack. We go all the way in the back. For all you, I used to work in retail. You want the clearance? You got to go all the way in the back. You go all the way to the back of the store, and then you work your way back to the front. The clearance rack's in the back. All right? That's where Jerry, Stephen Jones, and my Cowboys shop. We shop in clearance. Okay,
Look, well, let me ask you a question.
Filene's basement clearance
Do you
type
think
stuff.
do you think that do you think that the Arizona Cardinals shocked the world when they signed AJ Green?
They shocked me when they signed J.J. Watt. So AJ Green, and again, I'm gonna ask the world. I'm gonna ask the world. Don't ask Dwayne Morris. I'm gonna ask the world. Is Kenny Galladay better than AJ Green?
AJ Green was signed for $8 million, right?
Yes. So Kenny Galloway is a $10.5 million better wide receiver than AJ Green. Now listen, you get what the market dictates. That's why I told you all about Rain Dakota. Y'all want to talk about how the Cowboys is the market determined that Rain Dakota Prescott got the contract that he got. All right, but y'all ain't looking at the fact that the Cowboys saved $12 million in cap space on that. Yeah, no, y'all ain't looking at that. You're just looking at his Dak Prescott, and he's trash, and he's this, and he's that. All right, fine. But if you're gonna say that about the Dak Prescott conference, again, I had surgery, so excuse me. If you're gonna say that about the Rain Dakota Prescott contract, you better say it about Galladay. And listen, somebody told me, and again, shout out to my Broncos, the Western Michigan Broncos, row the boat, let's ride, and all that. That my boy Corey Davis got overpaid by the Jets. And what I'm saying to you is, he was hampered by the Tennessee Titans offense. It's going to turn out
Hey,
to be a steal for the Jets.
Dwayne, it's funny because the Jets, I would give them an A in free agency, and they still got the most options going into the draft.
Man, the Jets is sitting on a powder keg, man. Like, listen, I know the world loves Zach Wilson all of a sudden. I was on Zach Wilson before the world. I saw him as a true freshman, light out my beloved Western Michigan Broncos. Lit us up as a true freshman. I believe in Sam Darnold. I think the Jets have great draft capital sitting there at 2. Somebody let the 49ers come up and get Zach Wilson. And you take 3 ones from them, starting with their 12. And you can still get a Dara Shaw to put on the other side of Mekhi Becton and have bookends for Sam Darnold to protect him. Listen, man, I can go on and on. You know it's draft time, and I love this stuff. Love it.
So moving right
Even
along,
in,
who's
even in pain.
who's Saturday, Dwayne? We doing the East is Saturday?
Saturday is the East, all right? And we're going to do the AFC East separate from the NFC East. And call us what you want to call us. I don't care. And when you want to think about it, everybody is crowning Bill Belichick for the moves he made, okay? Do you guys know how much money that man was under the cap? Do you?
Let's see how much money they stay under the cap once the salary cap go up. They're gonna stay at least 30 million every year because cap
Oh,
money rolls over.
and look at me, look into my eyes, people. That new TV deal means one thing for you all. And you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. But in this new TV deal, one team, could be on national primetime TV 7 times in their 17-game NFL season. So you know what that means, NFL? Look forward to seeing those Dallas Cowboys with the star on their helmet in national primetime 7 times starting in 2024. You like it, I love it. You hate it, I love it. DC for life.
With that, we're gonna close the show. Another great episode with my buddy. Another part of our NFL mock draft. With that, everybody stay safe and appreciate
Like,
everybody in the chat for watching.
subscribe, and share. Like, subscribe, and share. And I'm going to say it to you again. To set up a Gmail account, a Google account, all it takes is time. So get it done. Like, subscribe, and share.
We're gonna promote one of our shows that's airing Thursday.
We water the seeds, but we grow together. We grow together.
Third episode will be airing Thursday.
So often we are referred to as queen. But have you ever stopped to admire the beauty of your crown? Let's talk Crown Rules. Thursday nights at 9 p.m. with your hosts Quentin Ford and myself, Julia Dozier,